This episode is brought to you by Mortgage Workflow Partners and the Mastering Encompass series, both for users as well as administrators. You can find out all the information about it over at masterengencompass.com. Also, if you'd like to check out what we're doing on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel using the @MasteringEncompass handle. And make sure you stay up to date on all the information, not just with podcasts, but also video content that we bring to you as often as possible. Now let's get on to the episode. Hey, welcome. It's January 6th, 4 p.m. Eastern. We're here in the community, and I totally screwed up and didn't actually get the link to my marketing team. So we just might be the only 7 here. Wait, there's 8 now. Oh, there's more people coming. All right, so everybody's jumping in. I'm just being anxious. It's only 4 o'clock. My name's Larry Bailey. You're joining here because this is the Mastering Encompass weekly, well, I guess not weekly, but the Mastering Encompass Ask Me Anything admin workshop. Honestly, anybody's invited. I think we have to change that label. It's not just for admins. It's really for users too. So we're going to expand this out. Just if you're watching this replay, really the Ask Me Anything is for anything Encompass. What I found is that there are a ton of people who just have questions and they don't know where else to ask. And sometimes questions get asked that lead to more questions from me to you, and that kind of gets the whole thing going. So how do you ask a question? I've got everybody's camera turned off and everybody's microphone turned off when you join. That keeps it nice and clean coming in. If you want to ask a question, raise your virtual hand. I will see it on here, hopefully. You can also use the chat feature. You can also use the QA feature. I will do my damnedest to make sure that is in my eyesight. And see if I can get this to work properly. Don't trust me with technology, gang. And we'll just keep on rocking. I've got the QA up. What's the difference between the QA and the chat? Most people like the chat because it's just easy to type. But if you've got something in the QA, you can put it there, and that way everybody will answer. See the answer, I should say. So January 6th, 2026 is going to be it's going to be an interesting year this year with ICE pushing out first major update supposedly still happening on March 21st, the weekend right after the ICE X26 event. Speaking of ICE X26, we've got 20, I think we've got like maybe 21 seats left, maybe 20 seats left of the wrap-up show. The room holds 50, so it's $250. And I would tell you it's worth it. It's a full day, it's fully catered, no alcohol, just water and soda and stuff, but plenty of food. And what we're going to do is it's going to be workflow all day. So it's myself, Christy Younger is going to be the director of workflowology. We're going to have Jim Deach there also talking about data. We're going to have some other folks there. Zach Sharkey's going to be there. He's going to do a live coding session. And so on that topic, shout out to Zach Sharkey and Sharkey Byte. He does a coding class for JavaScript. For those that want to learn JavaScript, we actually have Mortgage Workflow Partners actually has somebody in that class now, mostly because we're not developers, right? And you're probably not a developer also. And so it might be a good way for you to get in the know, so to speak. All right, so for those that are just joining, thanks for coming. I appreciate you being here. Anybody have any questions? Mickey, thanks for saying it's 100% worth it for the wrap-up event. Eventually, I'm going to turn this sucker into like a workflow mastery event. That's my goal. Is there a link for the sign up for the wrap-up event? I will find it and put it into the chat. Thanks for asking, Kevin. But yeah, it's at the top in the Mastering Encompass. It's under the open events. It's pinned to the top. I'll put it in there right now. How do I do that? Buy ticket? I don't know. Oh, that's to purchase it. Questions? Oh, we had more people show up. Cool. So give me a second because I can't talk and type at the same time like a typical guy. So I will put the event link. Here it is. I figured it out. I'm not too bad. I'm bad enough, but I'm not too bad. All right, so that's in there, Kevin. Enter. Thank you for asking about that. Cool. Questions? Anybody have anything they want to talk about? How do you move to enhanced conditions? How do you use workflow tasks? How do you stop using plugins? How do you get stuff to float around on the web? I don't know. What kind of questions do you have? Raise your hand and I will, Lisa, cool. So I will allow Mike. I'll allow Cameron too if you want. Just let me know. You could take yourself off mute if you want.
Yeah, no camera. I'm good.
Oh, wait, now I have to turn the volume on. Hang on. I can hear you.
Okay. So I have a question in regards to milestones, and we have it currently a withdrawn, denied milestone, which I'm working on getting rid of.
Thank you.
But I've only ever done a denied or withdrawn milestone. How do I, like, I'm getting some of the tasks and stuff, but I have a lot of stuff based on when that milestone gets completed on some of our triggering some of our HMDA stuff and some of our other information. Do I just base it off of like the action, like the 1393 field being certain triggers, or what is your recommendation on that? Because I've always just done it on milestone completion.
Yeah. Sean beat me to the chat here. So it's important to remember field 1393 is the HMDA status field. It's not to be trifled with. That sucker is not something that you change unless you own the loan, aka originated, or you've declined the loan for any one of the 6 or 7 reasons. The alternative to using a milestone to automate 1393 update is anything else you want it to be. So Lisa, if in your workflow, it's I did this thing, therefore the file's declined, and you want to automate that, find out what the workflow is, find out what those workflow events are, and then use that to automate 1393.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, I'm just nervous on it because it's just different. So I just want to make sure, see
Well,
if there's any other suggestions, or I mean, is there,
think
I don't know
about
if HMDA wants us changing that field or if that's what they do, or if they do it on their own. I'm not sure
I mean, your HMDA
currently the
team.
process.
When you say HMDA, do you mean the people in your company?
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
a
so
HMDA team.
so this gets back to workflow, right? And so
Yeah.
So if you haven't been to mwpinc.com, please go there. It's our new corporate website for mortgage workflow partners. I explained this concept of workflowology. I tried to float that word out a couple of years ago. It didn't really stick because we didn't have the right movement or the right timing. But the whole point of that word is really to understand the workflow of the company. So yeah, Lisa, if you're nervous about this move, it's because you're not quite sure how people decline loans. And so you need to get that documented. And in some companies, like we had one earlier today, we had a client call where the loan officer denies the file, and then it has to go to an underwriter to actually deny the file. And so they had also a milestone called denied. Didn't actually update 1393, the underwriter did in this case. And so what we provided for as an alternative to their checkbox that they had on a custom input form, which would then automatically finish a milestone, probably not unlike yours. Instead of doing that, that's going to actually create a workflow task for the underwriter to go in and review the file for final declination. And then the underwriter is then going to go and update the HMDA form with all the appropriate information as well as a statement of denial. And then as soon as that work is done, based upon what happens, then the statement of denial is being automatically sent to the borrower through a workflow engine rule via Consumer Connect. Lights out, automatic. So I don't know if that's helpful for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You got it. Great question. Yeah, be careful with 1393 because when Lisa was saying the HMDA people, I just imagined the HMDA police because those folks are pretty they're not nice people. They yell at you when your LARs are off. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Lisa. Other questions coming up. Again, I think the big thing that's going to happen in 2026 for everyone is you're going to have companies come back to you. If it hasn't already, and they're going to ask you, why aren't we on Encompass Web yet? What's the dealio? So I don't know if anybody has any questions around that interface or how you leverage web settings properly, even if you're using desktop interface only now. Or like I said earlier, any questions around how workflow tasks work, how to configure them, how to move to enhanced conditions, how to move your team to Encompass Web. These are all things that we do at Mortgage Workflow Partners, like all day. Also, any TPOC questions? I know there's some TPO folks on here. I recognize the name, so you guys are quiet. Is anyone going showing hands? Anyone going to ICE in March? Few people. Okay. We're at booth 870, which is when you walk in the room, we're off to the right. What do you guys think about? I was thinking about doing a little an admin, like a 10-question admin test. That if you pass it in 3 minutes or less, you get to wear a pin that says I passed the admin test, but all I got was a stupid button. Would you want to take that test? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, Amy's like, yeah. I tell you, Mickey. All right, thanks, Mickey. I appreciate your bravery. Oh wait, where the hell did you just go? What? I know I saw. Oh, you put your hand down? Did I put your hand down, Mickey, or did that just disappear? Oh my gosh! One of these days. Oh, hand down. Is that what happened? Oh, you didn't take your hand down fast enough. Okay. So you got a Q&A up there. I see that little red dot, and the question says, waiting for it to load. We're finally moving forward. New doc viewer. Is there anything particularly surprising you should be on the lookout for? Yes, Kevin. You should be particularly surprised if your team doesn't yell at you because they wanted to do a print preview and they use Word to type up changes to the custom print form before they send it. So have you addressed that? If you want me to take, by the way, if you want me to take you off mute, if you want to talk through, let me know if you want to talk through it. Raise your hand if so I can find you in the crowd. Cool. All right, let's go. Where are you? There you are. Kevin, allow Mike. So yeah, you should be able to take yourself off mute. There you go, Kevin.
All right, I appreciate that. Yeah, so we basically killed that Word preview thing years ago. I don't think that's not necessarily tied to new doc viewer versus old doc viewer. It's a separate setting in the admin tools. Basically, the complaints were, why does it take me 2 business days to generate a package? And the answer was that setting.
I'm sorry, I got totally twisted. That's not new doc viewer. That is server. That is EDS custom form printing.
Exactly.
No, it is new. It is. So
no, it's like custom doc processing. There's a name for it in admin
tools.
Yeah.
So the thing with new doc viewer, and I actually there's a free class that I recorded like last year. It might even been the end of the year before, but it's in the free course. It's called New Doc Viewer versus New Doc Viewer Introduction. So the reason
that's what
why
inspired us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. The thing that companies run into mostly is users try to select more than one file and then edit. So make sure your teams are properly trained when they're actually editing the document. If they select more than one file, they're going to get all upset because they can't arrange the thumbnails, or they can't edit the file. And so that's the only thing I would tell you that comes up as far as heartburn with the move into production.
Okay.
Does anybody else have anything else? I mean, there's plenty of people on here that moved to new doc viewer. So anybody else want to add anything to that for Kevin? These people don't talk, Kevin. Sorry. They don't answer anything.
All good.
But if you give them a beer at a bar, they just nonstop talk. It's crazy. It's just so unusual.
Ice is good for that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, Sean's really good. Sean's folks are solid. Amy too. Um, Total Nothing Burger. I'm telling you that the support cases we get on our help desk, we might get a few a month rather. And it's from literally people doing exactly that. They have more than one file selected in the user interface.
Gotcha.
How, yeah, well, I have you on mic. Have you tried New Doc Viewer in web yet?
No, no. So we're still mostly in desktop other than services. We've been migrating services over,
Okay.
migrating automations over. We haven't actually migrated users in any role over to web per se. I mean, technically it's there. They could go wander in there and, I don't know, run AOS if they want to, but,
Mhm.
we're not directly telling them to do it yet. That's kind of a project for later this year.
I would encourage you to at least make sure you or your admins or and trainers or whoever, make sure you go explore that. The reason why I'm asking you this is because you'll discover that the user interface is identical. So when you do go to move to web, you can talk about how enhanced conditions UI is the same in desktop and web. The doc viewer is the same in desktop and web. It just helps give people familiarity when you do go to make that change.
Okay. Yeah, we just moved to enhanced conditions last year, and that was kind of the impetus for it is, we want to get over to web. This is going to be required. If you want to look at conditions in web, this is how you have to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if, you know, it, could you even use the old doc viewer in
You
web? I didn't think
can.
that was possible.
No, you
Huh.
can. It's just the UI sucks. It's not what you want. Everything's weird. You can see if you go test it, like I don't even have any environments still left on the old doc viewer.
Mm,
I think we might have a client or two, but yeah, you can see the documents, but you cannot interact with them properly.
okay. Interesting. So one of the strange things I found, and I don't want to dominate the call, but
Well,
you
nobody else
know,
has their hand up, so just you and me, Kevin.
the search feature was
Oh my God, isn't
amazing,
that so
right?
awesome?
But
Yeah,
it's interesting, like some documents just can't be searched, right? So like you
it's
upload a
how they were
driver's
flattened.
license,
Yeah.
like certain PDFs, they're just not rendered for text. And you can change that. Like if you can actually render it for text using like the premium version of Adobe,
Yep.
run that thing, upload it, and magically you can search it. But like in our UAT testing, that was the one big thing is I could see users just selecting every document, for example, and then searching for a word, concluding it's nowhere in there, but they
Mm.
don't know if it's in a document that is not correctly rendered, right? So that was
So
one of the big call outs in our initial training.
yeah, I think so first of all, you're traditionally looking using that functionality when you're managing documents, so whether it's processing or underwriting. And if you find you can also replicate that experience. I don't know if you tested this, but you can also replicate that experience of unreadable documents by reprinting just through Adobe printers
Hmm.
instead of using the conversion. Because if that came in as an image, the ICE doesn't use Adobe to convert. So that's one of the downsides to importing images into the E folder. But where I was leading you was, and for everybody, the search feature that Kevin's talking about is a game changer when you show an underwriter that they can open up an appraisal and search for subject to and look and see how many times that word comes up. It can be very, very helpful.
Yeah, our power use case was all these little affirm payments in the bank
Uh,
statements.
yeah, yeah,
Just search
yeah.
for Affirm or Klarna or Afterpay or
Oh, that's
whatever.
a good one.
Yeah, because that gets us like it's on page 17 and it's discrete. You
What's
might not
up
ever
with the
find it.
what's the point of finding it? What does that do to the file?
So if you have it in your bank statement, you're supposed to document it that it is an actual pay in four, right? So if it's more than 10 payments, you have to treat it as a liability, right?
Really?
And there may be some variation program to program, but just because it's a firm doesn't mean it's paying for. A firm also offers like 12 months payment, right? So if your borrower is paying this thing and it's more than 10 payments, well, you
Oh
can't
my
just
God.
ignore it anymore, right?
Did you
So
guys
we
have a
actually,
loan buyback because of that, or how'd you discover this?
well, so it was announced several times in guidelines over the last few years. We've had it come up in post closing. I don't think we've had a repurchase due to it.
That's good.
But we've had investors come back and say, hey, we bought the loan. We noticed these things in there. Do you have documentation that this is less than 10 payments? And it almost always is, except when it's not, right? So in the pandemic, people were buying Pelotons with the 12-month affirmed
Sure.
financing left and right. So I mean, stuff like that, you will want to be able to search for. It's annoying, but it's legit.
No, that's awesome feedback. I'm sure you just saved somebody's ass right now. So thanks for bringing that up. I'm glad I asked. I did not know that. Um, let's go ahead and admit these folks in. Kevin, thanks so much. To prove we're in compliance. Shauna Hughes asked to prove we're in compliance with TILO when sending the LE with 3-day time frame. If I go to packages tab, I see incomplete and they've not viewed. I assume we're out of compliance. Not a compliance resource, not a compliance attorney, right? So everything I'm about to say is not compliance advice. But let me tell you how Encompass works. So if the file has so remember that your LE and CD due dates are based upon your company calendar, right? You have to be open to be counted against. So if your requirement is to where the file is sensing that you've triggered TRID and you need to send out a loan estimate within those 3 days, if you go to the disclosure tracking tool and you go look at the disclosure event that you've sent this to the borrower, and you open up that disclosure event and you see the tracking history and you see the borrower's email in there, that's good. What we're looking to see is, did you deliver the borrower the disclosures as required within 3 days? And most importantly, did you have e-consent before that disclosure event? Because again, if you lose e-consent, the whole thing restarts. So the idea here is that, Angie, and I'll take you off mute here. The idea is that as Encompass works, if you have sent the disclosure package and you're still seeing the initial disclosure packages due, that tells you typically that the loan estimate was not part of that disclosure package, number one, or number two, you didn't actually deliver it to the borrower within the 3 days due. So I don't know if that answers your question or if you want to talk more about it, Shauna. Raise your hand if you want to come off mute. Angie, I see your question. Do you want to take yourself off mute?
Yes.
Cool.
Take my hand down.
And Sean, I'll pick you up as soon as Angie gets done asking.
So I was asked to have a required document in a milestone completion.
Yeah.
So they want to make sure that they put it in there before they complete the milestone.
Yeah.
And I put it in a milestone rule, but the user can't see it. Like when she goes to test this in our UAT, because that's where I put it first. And she goes to the milestone to complete it, that document is not showing up as a required document.
Is she able to see the document in the e folder?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So, I mean, there's lots of answers here, but when you go through and the user it's not a role access to documents. If the user can see the document in the e folder, we know it's not a role access to documents business rule problem.
Okay.
Okay. Number one. Number two, I know you made this document a requirement of a milestone. I totally get that. When you go look at that document, what's the milestone showing up in the e folder that's associated with that document?
In the milestone rule?
Nope. In the actual e folder, do you see the document in the e folder of that loan?
I'd have to find a test loan where she was testing it.
Okay.
So
So what I want you to pay attention to is if the document already exists in another milestone, that's going to take meaning when we add a document to a loan file, it's associated immediately with a milestone. If it's already added via a document, either manually or it's been added via document template, it's going to be associated with another milestone natively, right? The
Yes.
business rule is not going to recreate that document and then assign it to the milestone. It's still a requirement for that milestone, whether it's have an attachment or not. It's going to be independent. It's going to be dependent upon the rule. But if the document doesn't exist in the E folder, a milestone completion rule will create the document placeholder virtually in the E folder associated with that milestone requirement. This is how you can make documents appear or not appear based upon milestone completion rules instead of adding them to document templates, which is what we advocate at MWP, because you want to be able to not have documents replicate irresponsibly inside of the file. So Angie, it feels like, not knowing too much here, but it feels like the document already existed. It was already associated with a different milestone based upon a template before the rule hit.
Okay, that is probably it, because these are for adverse action loans. Underwriter second review adverse action loan. So they just want the underwriter to put certain documents in that are they want to make sure those documents are in there before
I would make sure that document doesn't exist in any template, any DocSet template whatsoever, because it sounds like it should only be there if it's a file that's about to be adversed.
No, it's not. I get the whole point now. Okay. I get it now.
You got it?
Thank
okay,
you.
That's helpful. Yep. You got it.
Mm-hmm.
Easy peasy. Shauna, damn, I'm working it out here. Hey, Shauna, you could take yourself off mute.
Hi, thank you.
Hey, you got it.
Okay, so
tell me more.
Whenever our disclosure desk sends the LE, she's not going back in there and mailing it if it was not viewed within 3 days. Okay, and so to me, that's we're out of compliance.
Well, hang on a second. So I'm going to take you back to 1993. You ready?
Yeah.
By the way, who else besides me was in lending in 1993? Anybody? All right, a couple people. Mickey, Amy, what did we keep at the front desk next to the outgoing mail when we were sending out disclosures? What do we have to do? People, oh, you're on mute. You can't talk, but you can put it in chat. You have to keep a log. Okay. Yeah, post date, right. So Steve remembers. So you have to keep a log, because when the regulator came in and said, hey, prove to me that you sent out the disclosure package, you'd be like, hey, here's my log. So Shauna, the package being viewed is not the thing unless you didn't have e-consent first. So in your scenario, do I have e-consent before I send the disclosure package?
They're sending it at the same time sometimes.
So then the answer is no. Okay. So if I do not have e-consent before I send out the disclosure package.
And it has to be, when you say e-consent, it has to be not that it was sent, it has to be already approved.
I received, let me say it in different language. Has the file received consent from the borrower to receive disclosures electronically before we send disclosures electronically?
No.
If the answer is no, then you have to go off of the view date. Somebody keep me honest, 3153, I think, in the disclosure tracking tool. I think 3152 is that you sent it, and 3153 is that they've received it. So Encompass is not going to put a date in the initial LE received until the borrower signs. So again, I'm not a compliance person. This is not legal or compliance advice, but this is what I would tell you to do if I was guiding your workflow. you would have a workflow task for your disclosure team that says on day 2, there'd be a scheduler that fires when the initial disclosure package is sent, 3152, and it would have a 2-day timer on it in your scheduler. And at the end of day 2, a workflow task would go to my disclosure desk or person or whoever it is, and it would say, hey, the Bailey file needs to have disclosure sent. And when the disclosure person gets to open up that loan, they can go look to see if the initial disclosures have been received on the disclosure tracking tool. If the answer is no, then I have to print and manually fulfill, put it in USPS, and get it out of there. It's got nothing to do with the package viewing at all.
Okay.
What do you think, team? Did I get it right? Am I going to win the compliance prize? What do you guys think? Do you like how I put in there that using the schedulers and then using workflow task? That would be what I would encourage you to do, Shauna. And you can substitute, right? You can, the reason why I don't want you to use field triggers out of desktop is because I want it to be a scheduled notification through web settings. Because if the borrower does actually e-sign in those first 2 days, I don't want noise showing up at my team member's desk to go work on a package that does not have to be mailed out. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, when you do your scheduler fires in 2 days, I left out a couple of details, but in the workflow rule that then fires, whether it's a notification and or a workflow task, make sure you put in there when the scheduler ends to do these things, but only do these things if 3153 is empty, right? If there's no receive date. Because if there is a receive date, I don't want anything to happen because the borrower already e-signed.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Another way to do that too, gang, if you don't want to do the 3152, is if you didn't receive intent to proceed, right? So if you're using Consumer Connect, at least, I know some other POSs do this, but if the borrower does e-sign the package, the intent to proceed document's in there. I'd also encourage you to make sure you enable if you're using new doc viewer, like what Kevin said earlier, you'll see another setting under your in your desktop settings that allows you to do auto retrieval. So you can, once that borrower signs, you can auto retrieve back into Encompass with at least Consumer Connect. That'll automatically fill in the ITP date, which then you can spawn automated services from, or at the very least, make sure you don't send out a package. So lots of choices, All right. What else we got? It's only 32 minutes. Oh, wait, there's more chats. Oh, wait, that's over here, Sean. Mr. Foots giving us his compliance advice. But yeah, it's not an uncommon question what Sean had. A lot of folks get tripped up on this for some reason. And, that's why a lot of companies will want, especially wholesale companies for some reason, if they're, from correspondence especially, to prove the borrower received those initial disclosures within 3 days of TRID date. They want the borrower to sign. It's actually not about signing. It's about receiving. It's the way the reg reads, but again, you got to do whatever you got to do to get the loan purchased. So there it is. Okay, so we got that. Other questions? Is there anything, let me ask you guys a question, and again, use chat or whatever. Is there any particular concept within workflows, like forget about Encompass for a second, but within workflows, whether it's for sales, underwriting, processing, closing, whatever, that you guys would like to hear my spin on in terms of an efficient workflow? I'd be glad to share that with you. I'm also going to encourage everyone, as I do with our admins on our admin training that we do, admin coaching and certification, that you document your workflows. If you are an admin and you have no idea what somebody physically does because you don't have their workflow documented, how can you possibly know what they're not doing? or what they are doing that needs to be made better. So the task that I gave the admin crew just a couple hours ago was for January, pick one team and figure out what you can do to make them better. That's it. It can be a small team, it can be a large team, whatever, but you got to pick something. And so if anybody has any questions of what I would do for a particular team, let me know. Ask me. Here's the place. I'll tell you exactly what we're doing to help other clients and what we focus on depending on the situations and the channels. Anybody like Celsius besides me? Stuff's dangerous. Okay. Other questions, thoughts? Code review. We had somebody email me through LinkedIn who's like, why is our Encompass running like poop poop? I said, send me the full diagnostic log. 15 minutes later, I said, this is where your problems are. So Lisa says, I'm going to start with funding workflow. Yeah. So funding means a lot of different things. Traditionally, what funding traditionally means is that you've got a team member who's receiving and they're kind of watching what's coming down the pipeline. And then they might do warehouse allocations. I don't know if that's a thing. Lisa, just real quick, do you have to do warehouse allocations, or I don't know how big you are? Or is it all going through one particular warehouse? No? Okay, cool. So with funding workflow, what traditionally has to happen, assuming you're not using a warehouse that's using API integrations with Encompass, you're going to have to make sure that loan, when it's approved to be funded, that you are extracting that out into the format and then uploading to your warehouse bank so that they can audit, again, whatever your workflow is for that. What you're probably doing now, maybe. So what I would suggest is make sure that in your workflow you're leveraging dashboards if you're using desktop. If you're not using desktop and you're using web, then I would always use workflow tasks to dominate my schedule of which loans need to be reviewed for wire prep or don't. If you are working still your funding team out of desktop, then what I would do is make sure that they are not dependent upon a list of fields that they have to go review, to making sure that they're in alignment with whatever output you have to do. Again, I'm making things up here because I don't know what you're dealing with, but typically in funding, sometimes you have translation tables that have to be set up for your extract reports that have to go out to your warehouse line. What ends up happening a lot too in workflows, what I would always guide you to watch against is making sure that when you are alerted that a loan needs to be funded, that you're making sure those loans don't show up if they're not approved for funding. It's number one. Number two, another thing that comes up a lot in the funding workflow is applying a Fed reference number or a funding release number that has to be sent out to the agent. So, Lisa, do you do any type of funding authorization to your closing team or your title companies or your attorneys?
No. Right now, it's just a complete disaster. There's things being missed all the time as far as
like
when
funding
milestones
prep?
get completed, things are being funded and shouldn't be. Things are missed wire-wise. So it's the whole process has to be re-reviewed. I did sit down with them and try and figure their flow out, but yeah, trying to get information out of them what they do. They're like, well, I don't know.
They don't know how to answer the question. So in this particular case, what I would do is not something. It's not something that's unusual. It's just not very common. But I would actually treat this as a funding readiness routine, similar to what we do with disclosure readiness. So is the file able to be funded? A lot of times as admins, what'll happen is you'll come up with business rules. You'll come up with hard stops based upon reactions. And so what I would do if I were in Lisa's shoes, what I would do is prep a funding readiness form. And I'd say, okay, gang, what fields do I need to make sure on my output? And I'd make sure all those fields are completed prior to funding readiness. I'd also go through and make sure that I understand when you say fundings are getting missed, things like this, where there's haphazardness. What I'd also make sure is that everyone understands the status of funding readiness. And again, if we work backwards, it's for those that have been with me for a little while, you used to hear me talk about comparison forms. So the reason why we use a comparison form in in underwriting, closing, and secondary is to give constructive notification to the file, aka everyone, that there is a problem within that area that needs to be addressed by that area. So what we do with disclosure readiness to automate initial disclosures is the same thing that I would throw at this, Lisa, from a funding perspective, and make sure everybody knows that I can't fund this loan because the following situation is incomplete, whether it's fields or open conditions or a lack of a request. You can also make sure that if there's a loss of consciousness of time, that's when I would leverage, whether they use it or not is another story, but that's when I would leverage schedulers with workflow tasks to say, this loan has to be funded today. And I would create a user group that's assigned to, including the funders as well as the department manager, whoever's responsible. So this way they know when they log in that day, they're getting probably a notification that you can send out saying this loan's supposed to be funded tomorrow, today, or whatever it is. But there's also this ongoing list of workflow tasks of files that have to be funded that particular day. It's probably a lot. If I remember right, you said you got a smaller team, but if it's this chaotic with a smaller team, it's mostly because people don't realize that it's not ready to be funded. And these are some methods that I would throw at it to try to help that conversation.
Thank you.
You got it, Lisa. That's a tough one. I'm sorry for you. Sure, book. Danielle. How you doing, Danielle? Do I have a best practice for tracking? Oh my gosh, thank you. What is this, a softball day? You guys are setting it up for me. So the question is, do I have a best practice for tracking ordered requested docs, i.e. appraisals, VVOE using tasks? Yes, the answer is yes. Further questions, do I update the priority closer to expected due date with dates? You can. Looking at how to make the pipeline view make more sense once we have enough tasks in there to be useful for them. All right, so Danielle, great question. Oh, and Denise, I totally missed your question down there. I am so sorry. And Sean, yours too. I suck. So I'm going to answer those questions here as quickly as possible. Through a screen share, because why not? So when we work with, let me get this out of here. Okay. There it is. When we get this over here, there it goes. You guys seeing the screen okay? Hopefully. Yes. When we get into workflow management, workflow tasks, so Danielle, definitely make a task type of potentially order outs, right? Or outstanding items, something that gives your team the ability to look forward over the next, hopefully, few months, where we get to view all tasks from the task pipeline. But what I would encourage you to do is if we go into a task for outstanding docs, I probably don't even have one in here. Appraisal. I know it says appraisal review. Oh, income docs. Here we go. So in income docs, when you do place an order, you're going to have to, which as a workflow rule, when a service order gets finished, you can then spawn a notification scheduler template to wait the X number of days that you expect the item to be returned. Let's say it's an appraisal. If the appraisal is not yet received at the end of that scheduler, that's when you would spawn the workflow task to go fetch the appraisal or update the appraisal status. These advanced conditions over here is where the money is. So if the due date for this task, if it just got hit today, if I'm closing in 2 weeks, I can probably just make this be defaulted, I'll pick 2 days, right? But I can come over here and say the due date is actually, if the closing is within 5 days, then the task is due within 1 day. If the closing is within 1 day, then this is due within 1 hour. So Danielle, is that feeling good for you, for what you're doing? Let me know. Again, if you want to talk through it, raise your hand. I can pull you into the audio portion. Just to dig into this a little bit further, remember that when you can do the same thing with priorities. So I use this for submissions and resubmission to underwriting. And so in here, same thing goes. When 1 is top priority, right, high, 10 is low. So what I do is we do an average of 5, but if it's the initial submission, underwrite, you can set a workflow task for the underwriter to go look at this. And if it's within 30 days, it stays at 5. If it's within 20 days, it goes to 4. If it's within 15 days, it goes to 3. You guys get the picture. And what you end up having is the underwriter in this example, or the processor, whatever it is that, Danielle's question was about due dates. But you can modify this. So if your team has their view set up for prioritization where the highest priority is at the top, this is how you can deal with a submission resubmission for underwriters to be able to know which file to pick up next. And so from an SLA perspective, I can use this for all kinds of things in workflows when it comes to TPO file review. I can use this for disclosure desks if you guys are still using those. I can use it for closers. I can use it for funders. I can do this kind of thing to really understand which file does the magic wand want me to pick up next. And we can dynamically change these through Workflow Engine as those events become true. And so check it out, explore it. It's a little bit weird to think about it, but what I want you to really take away from this example is the ability to, through the workflow task template, update the conditionality of the do within, and then the prioritization to really define how you want that workflow to be. So hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, let me go back to the questions I totally missed. Sorry, gang. Kevin, let me go back to where I left off. Sean, is there a way to print disclosure tracking details for just one disclosure record at a time? Currently, document default to printing. Yeah, it's not the disclosure that's the thing you're printing. It's the actual disclosure event that you're printing, Sean. So I don't know how you want to just do the disclosure tracking details for just one. Oh, you do mean the record. You probably mean it prints the whole disclosure tracking tool at once. Yeah, it does whatever it does. I don't know of a way to filter out. But if you're going to be at ICE, you can go to their people and be like, hey, how do I do this? Be curious what the use case is for that instead of the whole thing. Denise, has anyone set up auto updates of MI? Auto updates. So that would be up in services, and you go to automatic ordering templates. And when you say update, it's really just an order. And so if we want to come over here and we want to look at this order, this happens to be Arch. Arch is a call out. Arch doesn't work. They apparently want you to do it manually. So let's focus on not Arch. Let's focus on Magic. So you're going to do your updates in your automatic ordering templates, and then go down to your workflow rules to actually order that. So Denise, why does this fail for you? I don't know if you want to talk it through, or if you want to kind of leave it for that. But I want to know, why does it not work for you to use workflow rules to spawn that? When you say auto, if you're thinking, well, I changed the value in the field, so therefore I wanted to go refetch, that's not something that is, you don't want that. Like, you really don't want that. It's the same reason why, like, when Optimal Blue has a thing now where they'll listen for field change, and then they'll automatically reprocess a profile event. And I'm like, well, what if that was just a temporary, momentarily change, and we're going to change it right back? What do you do about that? So just right now, just parity with TQL. The difference is I'm not disagreeing. So what I would say is, if it doesn't exist today and exists in TQL, they're probably trying to figure it out. But like I said, we ran into a problem with trying to do this solution for a client. Arch's API doesn't even work through here. We can't even do this as of last week. We have to still do it through the services tab. So maybe they're trying to figure that out, Denise. I'm still suspicious about wanting to do this every time, but that's just me. I could appreciate it if you want it. Kevin says, what exactly do you look for in the logs when evaluating system performance? Are there any resources to help us learn that skill? I've been teaching my ChatGPT agent now for about 2 years on what to look for in logging. So, Kevin, that's really honestly the right answer, right? I mean, it's got that one particular debug log that I looked at, I think was like at, I don't know, 200,000 lines of code. As a human, there's no skill you can learn for that. You've got to use AI. The challenge is teaching your AI agent what to look for. The general chat GPT out there is becoming okay with Encompass. I still find it providing some hallucinations. So be mindful of that. But what I'm really looking for, what I'm telling the AI agents to look for, and other agents may work well. I'm not here to advocate for one or the other. The point is that when I taught our agent what to do, what I taught to look for was to look for specific error logs and latency between calls, and what certain calls meant within the Encompass ecosystem. And so it's not a panacea of answers like, oh, go to this line and do this thing. It's more of like the one we recently helped with was understanding that there's a table running in a DDM rule where the table doesn't exist anymore. Okay, well, let's go figure out why that's happening. And that's actually resulting in a few seconds delay experience. Then there's other things that we're firing, like some extra technology that they didn't realize was running, and some other stuff. So hopefully that helps, Kevin. But yeah, generally speaking, you're always looking for fails, runtime errors, and generally speaking, long pauses between calls in the log. I'm also looking for plugins. I'm also looking for extra technology that's querying, and you run a full debug mode. You turn it on, you have to restart Encompass on desktop, and then you go in, open Encompass, open a file, save a file, close a file, then stop debug mode, and then go analyze that. That's the magic. Couple minutes left. Anybody want me to show anything, do anything? Today's been really cool. I appreciate you guys coming on. Sorry again about the calendar. We'll get the series updated, so you can just go into Mastering Encompass, and it'll have a series on there. You can just RSVP to the whole thing. It'll remind you when it comes up. Make sure I didn't miss anything on the words. Nope, looks like I got everything on here. Once, twice. I won't run you to the end. If you guys have anything, feel free to post it in Mastering Encompass or hit me up directly if it's something sensitive. Be glad to help any way I can. Thanks for coming today. Have a great rest of your day. See you for now. Thank you.